time for another round of Brandy. Candid conversations over cocktails about all things brand. With your hosts, Reilly, Newman, and Scott Saunders, the brand developers behind Motif Brands.
Hello, and welcome back to another round of Brandy. We hope you had a nice Thanksgiving and are recovering from the festivities.
We've rounded the corner into December. What is it?
Cyber
Black
Monday,
Friday,
Cyber
Monday, and the shopping season is kicking into full gear. But before we get into what we're going to be talking about today, I think we like sometimes we come across some brand news, and something dropped that I came across today that I thought was interesting is that the chocolate bar company Tony's Chocolonely. It's an interesting mouthful for a brand name, but everyone knows Tony's chocolate bars. I think they just call them Tony's, but it's Chocolonely. Anyway, they have different wrappers, but their main milk chocolate bar is a red wrapper. Well, Pantone, the color matching worldwide global color matching system, just officially adopted their unique red in their wrapper as part of their color library, and they're calling it Tony's Chocolonely Only Red. And that's it. By short, it's just called Only Red, but it's officially called in their library Tony's Chocolonely Only Red.
And no one can use it, though.
No one can use it
without permission.
But it's at least for whatever reason they're standardizing it in their thing, so it's global consistency. I don't understand what's the point if no one's going to use it, but it doesn't matter because it's still big news for a brand when your brand creates a very unique shade or hue of a color, like a green or a blue or a red, to the point that Pantone says, hey, we want to add that to our library.
That is the power of brand in a lot of ways, where you've seen brands, even Starbucks, using different language for its sizing system, or you think of like the sound of a Harley Davidson or NBC's dun dun dun, like these sounds, visuals, and now even you think of colors. I even think of like the yellow that Lego uses on their pieces. Like to me, that yellow for their little humans and stuff it's very iconic for some reason. Or even like an M&M yellow, the yellow bags. There's just some iconicness to it, and these brands have been able to really create with sound, colors, visuals, create brand assets. And it really, to me, is like that's the power of it, is that even if you close your eyes and you think of a Tony's bar, you see it. You see that red.
To be honest with you, and this thought just popped in my head, it's like I think of other brands that are constantly, every few years, are honing, whether it could be like Pepsi or Mountain Dew can or other brands that they're packaging, right? They're always kind of tweaking and revising packaging, brand logos. I don't know how many times that Pepsi's rolled out with a different design for their cans, and they keep doing this every 3 or 4 years. And we pitch rebranding and retuning and from the mountaintops. But it's interesting because here's, I think, stays where the power of consistency, of not constantly changing a thing. Again, there's that sometimes a mentality, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But in the case of like brand or a color palette for your brand, if you're constantly revising your blue of your brand's blue every couple of years, you make it just a little lighter or a little more bright or a little more neon, or now fashion trends are going more low saturated, so our blue's going to kind of dial down a little bit, and you're kind of always keeping up with the industry, but at the same time, it never becomes iconic enough that can be so distinctive that Pantone is going to say, hey, we want your red in our color library, because it's never changed. It's always been the same, and it's different and unique, and you're never tinkering with the red.
Yeah, and I think the brilliance of it is that Tony's had this matchup with, because Tony's is very cause driven. I don't know if they're nonprofit or anything, but they are very into the inequality in the chocolate world from farmers to the big box, chocolate brands and everything. And so they really, that's their soapbox that they really preach from. And so they tie that in with the red, which red is a very passionate color. You have, a lot of energetic and, lovely emotions with that. So they tie that in nicely with the whole kind of stance they're taking on this cause. And they tie that in with the color, even with their on the Pantone.
Yeah, because they are very cause related. So they were quoted in the post I saw about the Pantone, library color edition, that their color was, quote, made to symbolize urgency, fairness, and fearless optimism. And in their mind, it further that red doesn't just wrap chocolate; it wraps a cause, and that was kind of their vibe and why they. Because you think of, again, most chocolate bars on the shelf. for the most part, are some shade of brown.
Yeah. Wah, wah.
Well, not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, Hershey's is barely changed over the years, and it's still iconic. But yeah, Tony's takes a little bit different approach. So again, a brand that's thinking outside the box is doing things differently, right? But we were trying to figure out how to approach the episode going into this season, the holiday season. And you've got young kids. My two boys are in their adults, so that magic of Christmas and just that wonderment, it's lost some of its flair in our household. But you have two young girls, and I love seeing families with young kids. And I think of Christmas time. God, it's such a magical time, right, with kids. And children are kind of at the heart of the holidays, and that innocence and that wonder with Santa, or it got us thinking about like what's the biggest word that kids use, that toddlers use, and it's the word why.
Right. And there's always this classic, the why, and it keeps going and going and going. Yeah. And it is kind of like you
and you usually answer because I said so.
Children definitely do reflect that, but I've always thought of adults just being big children in a lot of ways. Even when I was in high school, it was like I'd look at teachers and be like, "Oh, he's just a big child."
Yeah, he's acting like a big. It's usually with people that are like, "Why are you acting like a 5? Would you act your age?" Like they're responding emotionally. Like, why is that full-grown man having a tantrum in the
Look, and it's funny because the psychology reveals itself where even as consumers, as adults, consuming products, making purchase decisions, you do ask the why. And it's always innate in all your purchasing, like, okay, why should I buy this? Or why should I buy this product over this product? And we like that, where there's that famous quote where it's like, okay, there's two reasons why someone buys something. The first reason is emotional, and then the second reason is justifying the emotions. Is that we think that we're being rational in our decisions. We go, oh, this is why I bought it. But really, it's like the emotions do take over, and they help really drive that decision process. But we do always ask why. So then when it comes to brands, it's like being able to answer that and lean into that automatic kind of decision-making process we all have. And again, children being the proof of that, is that we do ask why. And so brands being able to go, okay, how do I make use of that, rather than just going straight to the what and only selling the what, but going, no, let's
what or the how being their level of distinction. Like a brand, we always talk about brand distinction, right? So even the how is a lot of times that is really, if you answer the why, then you're dictating the what and the how.
Yeah. And I think bad marketing and bad brands do it where they go, what am I selling? How am I doing it? And then the why is kind of slipped in at some point. Very, very strong brands will do it opposite, where first it's the why, and then it's the how, and then the what. And this goes into even like Simon Sinek's book, the Start With Why, which is a classic business book that it had some novel ideas in it, but not anything truly new. If you are familiar with Jim Rohn or any of these other thought leaders in the business world, or even like Peter Drucker and stuff, but it did simplify some of these ideas down to always starting with why. And I think it's also proof, because even in my kids, I see them where once you give them a why, then it's about a how. So if they go, well, why is Santa doing these things? Or why does Santa fly around the world and deliver presents? And if you give them reason to believe, then the brain goes on to, well, how does he do that? Because if I start asking you how you do something, I've already bought into you can do that thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like I'm already more down the field. So as a brand and as a marketer, our job should be to first hit the why, get someone to believe in the magic, and then you carry that over to then the how. And that how can also be a source, like Scott was saying, of differentiation of the brand. And that, again, even like Tony's, if you unwrap the red wrapping on a Tony's bar, you'll see something different about it.
Very different. Because, I mean, let's think of the classic Hershey bar, or even other like Cadbury, any of those big ones, right? You open up a full can chocolate bar, and there's squares, there's break divots in the mold of the chocolate so you can snap it off, you can break it into small pieces. It's not one solid block. It's usually broken down that you can even share it with, I can break off I can easily break in half a Hershey bar or into quarters, and even I think it's like, I forget how many, but I think there might be like 3 by 4, so 12 squares of chocolate. I could simply evenly divide an equal portion a square of Hershey chocolate
Break it off.
to 12 kids, and they all have the same. It's
even
equal.
Toblerone, is that how you say that? The chocolate,
Toblerone,
like,
yeah,
they're
where they're
triangles
big
or
nuggets,
pyramids.
yeah, and I mean, again, most Cadbury, all of those, they all have a breaking point with chocolate to break it up. Well, Tony's is different. If you look at a Tony's bar, and if you've never bought one and don't want to buy it, just go to Tony's website. You'll look it up, Google it, because they show that, because they boast about it, because to them, to really highlight the inequality in the chocolate industry. So even if you look at their bar, there's no straight lines. You break off chunks. Some are big pieces, some are small pieces. It's not fair.
Right. And I feel like that's so important because, again, they have their cause, like we always talk about. They have their narrative. They're telling a story, and they put their special narrative on it. Okay, their color ties into that, their packaging, even how the product is put into the mold for the chocolate and everything. And then that bleeds into the experience of the consumer actually partaking of the brand and eating the chocolate. And it creates conversation, or even them asking why, right? Why is this bar it looks like a shattered piece of glass.
Yeah, it looks like
and
a
it
stained
doesn't look
glass
like
window or
rectangles.
something, yeah.
And again, that is a perfect use of that difference being in the experience, in that how, the process, and it is tied to the why. And so this is actually, I think, really important for brands and founders to think about, is that going, okay, if why can tie into how we do things, well then how do we get that out there without just releasing press releases or putting it over the website of like, oh, we believe in this or that, right? It's like, I believe design itself is the huge signaling beacon that can really draw in people to ask why. And there's plenty of historical examples of this from famous brands, but even, again, Tony's bar, if you saw that bar next to a Hershey's bar, you'd be like, why is that one like that? Like, why didn't they do, like, the rest of the industry does it a certain way? Why they do it this way? And it's not just to be different for the sake of being different.
Which we also, we promote that. We talk about that's your edge, is like, for your brand, find ways to be distinctive, right?
Yep.
To stand out. And that forces a lot of you as our listeners and people that are, into branding to ask that question, come up with a solution, come up with the answer, and move forward with that, and hopefully help their brand become a successful brand. But again, that the why is at the root of it all.
Yeah. And there's a quote that, it might have been Drucker who said it, but he said, brands or companies don't just die, they die from indifference. And this typically is the common thread through the failure of companies, is that they go along, like we talked about in the previous episode, is like the status quo. They go with the stream. They're just going along, and there's no difference to what they're doing as a company. And, again, Steve Jobs, he was very, very a strong perfectionist and into design, but he realized deep down that design is it's core to the DNA of a brand, of how someone interacts with a product or anything like that. And so even with design, he'd say design isn't how it looks, it's how it functions. There's a lot of wisdom in that, because in not only the functionality being tied to, yes, how something may visually look, but also vice versa. And a good example of this is if you Google it and look at how SpaceX, they took the rocket and re-engineered it, where the previous rocket that NASA had been using, it's this gangled mess of pipes and all these doohickeys, and it looks like a junkyard. Like, it's awful. The new rocket is so simplified. It's like beautiful looking. And that alone is like, again, it's not the design, yes, visually looks better, but it's also, it functions way different, much better. And so thinking about that and going, okay, even in the bar, again, Tony's chocolate bar, relating that to a rocket, is like the design is how it functions different, and it's visually appealing, it's visually different, so it stands out. It has that kind of difference baked into it.
Yeah. Taking time to even ask the whys of why are you doing it the way you do? Is it because that's the way everyone does? And then those are the things, again, coming up with the answers to the why.
Yeah.
And there's other great brands, like so many people, like Steve Jobs was classic for asking the why, and that helped shape Apple in the early days.
Having the strategy is one part. That's your foundation. And then using design to actually display that and signal that is the other half of it. You need both halves, because design is strategy. Without strategy in design, you're really just, it's art in a lot of different forms, And it's like, again, design should answer the why. That's why when you think of really good design, product design, or even like utilitarian design with pedestrian crossing or signage, it's like there's always a why that it's answering, and it's doing that effectively. And really good design is almost invisible because it creates, it's so well embedded.
And you even mentioned between difference between art and design. I've always liked to think about it that like art, fine art, is done in such a way that it allows the freedom of interpretation to the viewer. And that's what you can look at an abstract painting. It's like, what do you get out of that? And it's left for interpretation. And that's the joy of it, is that everybody could have a different, take something away different from the same piece of artwork. But design, graphic design particularly, and brand visual design, it should not be left up to the air for interpretation. It needs to be very, very communicate in some way, distinction, purpose, value, the answer to the why question, like all those things. It needs to be razor sharp. It needs to be surgical. It needs to be strategic, and that's what you were kind of.
Yeah, it can be like lukewarm, and that's what, again, Apple's computer with the colorful dome shape. What year was that when they did that? That was like
mid to late 90s.
So even that is like a huge expression and signaling of the creativity that Steve Jobs was bringing to the personal computer, where even him leaning into typographical design and things like that, where he was bringing this into the personal computer. Huge signaling device. Or even think of, like we've talked about before, is like Red Bull. Red Bull, he made that can design special for Red Bull, which again, no one was doing that before. And it carved out his interesting new market that he was making of energy drinks, and it stood out. And another really good example of that is Dyson vacuums, where at the time you had bags and vacuums where they'd sell you the vacuum and then make a ton of money off you by you having to buy bags. And the bags never really worked. And Dyson comes into the market and goes, no, I'm going to do a bagless vacuum. And at the time, all the vacuums were gray or just,
all the same,
solid. Yeah. And so you couldn't see what was in the vacuum. And Dyson, he was different by going, no, I'm going to make my vacuums transparent so you can see the dust and the hair and everything being collected. And that, again, stood out. He did some really colorful designs, but his design kind of visual language of the product made people ask why.
Yeah, he didn't just do it clear to be clear. Oh, because everyone else is doing solid.
I'm going to do the opposite.
Coverings. I'm going to do clear just to be different. It was because also, I think, there's some gratification. It feels like, yes, my floor is cleaner now because there's the evidence. Look at all the dirt I've just collected. So there's a psychological gratification that comes from someone using a Dyson vacuum, where they're literally, after vacuuming the living room, they're able to look down and go, wow, look at the dirt.
Yeah.
And there's gratification to it. So again, there's why, beyond just to be different.
Again, the design that he had spoke to the why. And even that, then it led on to the how, where he had his patented cyclone technology. And that was then the whole crux of, he spent 15 or so years working on that.
Right.
And then that was his whole, that's the whole like philosophy for Dyson.
Yeah, like your brand design, your brand's overall design. Not, again, we're not just talking logo. It could be everything from package design to logo to website to, a billboard ad, whatever it is. All the visual components and the visual touch points that you have for your audience or your potential audience to come across the brand, there needs to be, there's strategy behind it. You're not doing it just to be different, going, oh, well, they're all doing this, so I'm going to do that. The design needs to be in response to the why.
Yeah.
You come up with the answer of why your brand. And there's some people that are like, hands down, I'm getting a new, if it's a cooler, I'm going to get a Pelican cooler, or, one of those industrials, or yet whatever. Is that because it's the most popular? Is it, or no, it's the most expensive. Therefore, it signals to me it's going to be the best. It's going to be the most longest lasting.
The why can even be fulfilling that internal narrative, where if we all think of someone who's bought a Yeti cooler, we can kind of imagine they probably drive like a Toyota Tacoma or something, and they want to be viewed a certain way as like the outdoorsy. Oh yeah, I go hiking. It's my Yeti
signal.
cooler. I go, let's go rafting and stuff like that. Like it matches a certain. The brand successfully encompasses that and shows that. Just like someone might buy a Tony's chocolate bar because they want they want to share it with someone or be seen eating it. And then there's that association of them going, oh, I choose to buy this chocolate bar because they represent this bigger cause. Hey, do you want a piece? Oh yeah, the piece isn't even. And then the person asks them why, and they start kind of divulging that. So it's like, there's so much to it where it's not just why on a functional basis, but also maybe like how Scott said, your situation, your mode that you're in. Right. Like I bought a skinny toaster because we do a lot of traveling because my girls have dance competitions and stuff. And we have this skinny toaster.
It's like a travel toaster?
Yeah. And it's great for the hotel, but it was made for dorms and stuff because it takes up very little counter space and it's super no bells and whistles. And I actually like it a lot. Like I actually, but I keep it in the garage. And then when we travel, I pull out the skinny toaster
and take it with you.
And it works great.
So like in a hotel room, you're like making toast.
Yeah. Cause I have to get up at 5 a.m. to get their dance stuff ready. But it's a different mode, right? It's a different situation that I find myself in where my normal toaster at home that does 4 slices of bread or 6 or whatever it is. It's like, I don't need that.
Well, and here, again, the whole episode is going to be focused on Tony's chocolates. But again, here's an idea. The one thing that brand is pushing and they're signaling isn't, this is the best chocolate bar you'll ever eat. This is the best tasting chocolate. Point is, it's a different answer to the why. And it goes back to, how well do you know your customers? Because that will help you frame the why and then therefore the how that you do things.
This is even on a bigger scale when you think about AI and how LLMs work in sourcing answers, is that, again, going back to that quote, is that companies don't die from not being the best. They die from not being different.
Standing out.
That's the problem, is that, and even the way LLMs work, which are like ChatGPT, Gemini, all these AI things, they're not sourcing the best answers. They're sourcing the best fit based off of citations and things like that. And that's where even with agentic AI and all these new things that will be rolling out probably in the next 6 months, is that it's going to be all about fit. And you think of survival of the fittest, is that these brands, who fits you the best, whether it is Tony's bar, Tony's chocolate bar, fits you as a consumer because you care about that, kind of some social signaling, kind of some also makes you feel good inside, makes you feel like you're doing something for a purpose. That's all fine. But that's how you are as an individual, and that's what fits your lifestyle. But if you're a chocolatier and you're all into, or a connoisseur of chocolate, it's probably not the best bar. Because A, it's milk chocolate, I think. I think they only have milk chocolate. So even though it may not be the best, right, but it could be the best fit for certain consumers. And that's all that really matters when it comes down to things.
Again, they're really leaning into knowing who their consumer is and their audience, and why someone would want to choose their chocolate bar. Why would they choose that brand? Why would they choose your brand? What about tomorrow? What about next year? Because if you're sitting on your laurels and not working on that brand because you're like, oh, there's only one other competitor and I got him. I've got him beat. I'm a better seller. And guess what? There will be eventually competition that you will have to go up against, and if you're not prepared, you're going to be left with your pants down and caught in the rain.
Well, on that note,
don't be a pantsless brand.
Yeah, don't get caught with your pants down. Actually, that's a great Warren Buffett quote. Warren Buffett says, when the tide goes out, then you see who is swimming without trunks on. And he talks about in economic downturns, it's revealed of who's really not doing things by the book, who's doing things and maybe, faking it or whatever. It's kind of the whole thing. It all comes out in the wash. So if you're not doing things that are actually good for your brand, you're being strategic and planning ahead, it's going to catch up to you. It's like if you just kept bringing on debt and taking loans, it's going to catch up to you 100%.
Yeah. What is at the core of your business? Why do you want people to choose your brand over the others? What is it about your brand? Make sure you're signaling that distinction through your brand design, like Reilly brought out, that it's all about the design and what your brand visually is signaling. You're signaling that answer somehow, some way, and have clarity in what you do. Again, brand strength is found in its clarity.
Yeah. And distinction with clarity is going to help not only you and know what to do with your company or with maybe your next marketing budget or what you need to get done or the rebrand you have coming up. It will give clarity to your audience as well, because you're going to ring that bell and they're going to go, oh, that's the one for me. They get me.
Yeah.
And whether that's a Yeti in the back of a Toyota Tacoma or a Tony's bar in a Subaru. Thank you for listening. You have a nice cyber week, month, whatever it is now.
Probably the inundated of all the brand emails that I've got in my inbox too.
Yeah, way too many.
It's that time of year, guys. So anyway,
we will talk to you soon.
Yep. Cheers.